transit system that can pick up visitors from nearby hotels, bring them to the park, and then take them to popular locations within the park as well. So they don't have the system because of lack of funds, mostly. Joshua Tree's revenue basically consists of just grants that come to them, and then the entrance fees, and then they hold periodic events such as the one that you see up above. And although Joshua Tree doesn't necessarily directly contribute to the local economy because it doesn't receive much revenue at all, it does indirectly contribute to the local economy by attracting visitors from all around the world. And as a result, hotels, hospitals, shops, restaurants, they all benefit from the visitors or the people that do decide to come visit the park. So if Joshua Tree does decide to pursue one of our alternatives, not only will they be creating more revenue, but they will also be improving each and every one of those visitors' experience and potentially getting more people to come visit the park as well. So now, Marlo and Karen will talk to you about funding analysis.
All right, so in order to find a feasible and valid way of funding Joshua Tree's potential national park transportation system, we decided to look at other parks around the nation and see how successful they were in funding their own bus systems. So they all had a common goal of innovative partnerships between federal land management agencies, gateway communities, state Department of Transportations, federal transportation agencies, foundations, businesses, regional organizations, and other groups. And the parks that we looked at were Zion National Park, Acadia, Lewis and Clark, and Glacier National Park. So the first park that we looked at was Acadia National Park in Maine. And they had a combination of federal, state, park, local, and private funding. And their Department of Transportation actually funded their propane shuttles. And they also have a transit fee that they attach to their annual passes that help fund their transportation system. And next up we have Zion National Park in Utah. And they're similar to Acadia National Park in the way that federal, state, park, local, and private funding actually helps fund their transportation system. And the park was also responsible in purchasing their buses. And they also have entrance fees, which also helps the operation costs. And in addition to that, they also have surrounding hotels, resorts, and businesses actually have a tax that goes towards the transportation system. And then next up, we have Glacier National Park. That's in Montana. What's special about them is that they actually have a transportation fee. In 2007, it was $5, and then that increased in 2009 to $7. And then Karen's going to talk about Joshua Tree's potential funding opportunities.
Okay, so looking at other national parks, it can be seen that utilizing a number of different funding sources is the best option for Joshua Tree National Park. The funding sources can be broken up into 4 major categories, which include federal grants, park sustaination, local opportunities, and sponsorships. Federal grants can be obtained through the Federal Transit Administration
option utilizes purchasing the bus at the very beginning of the year, and annual costs will only include operating and maintaining the bus. In addition to operating costs, it also includes the driver's wages per bus. In order to fully understand and confidently compare the alternatives from the different buses to the transit options to the infrastructure alternatives, we calculated all the costs to the present value. The present value, we determined a bus life cycle of 12 years and a discount rate of 0.93%. This 0.93% was founded by the current long-term government bond rate in mid-April. And this value includes the initial bus purchases, infrastructure, present value operating costs, and present value maintenance costs. The results for the purchasing costs are located here. As you can see, they do look somewhat similar in ranging. However, it actually ranges between a couple $1 million between the different buses. And now Jeffrey will explain more about our leasing option.
So another option that our team considered when looking into the financial analysis was a leasing option. So the leasing option would allow Joshua Tree to drastically decrease the initial cost of the project. The leasing option we looked into consists of a 72-month lease, and this lease would include a down payment of approximately 10% of the initial bus cost. We then moved forward and calculated an annual payment. This annual payment was found using a nominal interest rate of 5.5% and also monthly payments, which were found using a financial calculator. We then, at the end of the leasing option of the 6 years, the buses will still have some type of value. This value, we then concluded that there would be a buyout rate. This buyout rate would consist of 12.5% depreciation every year, and at the end, Joshua Tree would have the option of buying the buses. So the total present value of the leasing option cost would include the down payment, obviously the infrastructure costs, and also buyout costs. This is the overall cost for the leasing options. The numbers tend to be slightly higher than the overall cost of purchasing the value, but Gabe will proceed on and comment on our recommendation and our results.
Thanks. So, at the end of the day, the park has to make a decision on how to spend the money or if they're not going to spend the money. We looked at both the leasing and the purchasing options because we wanted to see which one gave the park the best benefit for their current situation. Their current situation, as we've elaborated on, is that they don't have a lot of money to put down up front. So what we decided is that the leasing option, although it is slightly more expensive for alternative 1, 2, and 3, is the best option because of the fact that purchasing the buses does require a large capital investment at the beginning of this 12-year period that was studied, while the leasing option allows the park to pay, although it's slightly more money. For example, for alternative 1, it's $300,000 roughly more. As you can see, for propane, it's $22 million, and just a bit more for propane. For purchasing, it's just under $22 million. The leasing option does allow the park to spread that cost over a larger period of time, putting down the 10% of the bus cost at the beginning, as Jeffrey mentioned, and then paying that annual payment, and then that final buyout, which is actually not a very large sum of money because of the depreciation of the buses. So what we recommend, if you're purely looking at cost, if the park is going to build something, is using the propane buses with alternative 1 for routes, as the route group showed earlier. If the park does decide that they do have more funds to invest, and or that they want to choose to invest more funds because an environmental alternative is preferable to the park based off their values or their mission for the park, then we recommend either electric or diesel even though they may be more expensive, they are slightly better when you look at the environmental impacts. If you have any questions about why we picked something or anything in our presentation, we welcome that. That's the end of our presentation.
All right. I'll ask, since that was. So you guys purely looked at the cost.
Yes.
Was there any benefit-cost ratio done? Just because cost doesn't always show the full picture of what you're doing out there. Was there a benefit-cost ratio?
The benefit cost ratio, we actually wanted to calculate that towards the end when we combine all the projects together in order to get more information with sustainability and infrastructure and also routing in order to determine the benefit of it. Because as finance and as our group, we were able to only collect the cost for each of the groups, but not necessarily the benefit that those costs incorporate.
Not only that, but the issue right now, once we did our research, we realized that, like we mentioned, the upfront cost was the problem, so which is why we ended up going with the leasing option. So taking all of that into consideration, the other alternatives weren't very feasible just because of the money issue.
You lost me. So why was option 1 selected?
Because
Option 1 is just, for propane, is the cheapest option. Can you go back a slide? Yeah. So if you look, the prices go up as you go to option 2 and option 3. If you remember, those options were also longer or require more infrastructure, so they are more expensive. So our group, looking at just pure, dollars and cents, said option 1 propane is the cheapest.
Was the cost of energy, either being propane or electricity, put into this map?
For example, like miles per gallon, something like that.
Yes.
Yes.
Was your fuel cost?
Yes,
Yes.
that is part of the studies.
Yeah.
That is. Is that sufficient? Can we ask you a question?
Yes, I'm sure.
That's not, I want.
So, I have a question about the seasonality of the transit system operation. Well, I don't remember anyone saying this explicitly, but I remember when we went to the park and saying that maybe this would only operate during peak periods of demand and distribution. So the assumption underlying all this, I think, is the assumption that you purchase the vehicle, you have vehicles with their life, which is 12 years, or you lease the vehicles, and you lease them 12 months, every month, every year. You don't just lease them for 3 or 4 months during the year, during the peak times. Is that the case?
The assumption made was you lease the buses for 12 months a year for 6 years. At that point, we couldn't find anything that was longer than a 6-year lease. That's where that buyout comes in. And then the park owns those buses for the last 6 years of the 12 years. But they are owned or leased for this 12 months.
And following up on the main question, the infrastructure costs for refueling, whether it's hydrogen or propane, that's included.
Yeah, so the infrastructure cost was, what infrastructure did was they did calculate purely on a lot of, what was it? Light poles and that kind of infrastructure cost, and they also provided us with cost to refuel or add fueling stations such as hydrogen, because Joshua Tree doesn't have a hydrogen station, and due to that, they incorporated their cost into when given to us.
So their analysis was an input into
Yes,
these numbers?
their analysis was also input.
That's why you can see hydrogen is so much more expensive than a lot of other alternatives is building that infrastructure.
What we did was we used their alternative 2, their recommendation of alternative 2 for infrastructure and placement engineering. And the number of buses were also incorporated depending on the shelters and the bus shelters in order to board the buses.
Why is diesel more expensive than propane? Because a lot of the time, people operators stick with diesel because they say it's more expensive to get alternatives, unless they're getting big tax breaks or whatever.
amount of fuel that it needs per mile is a lot more for diesel buses than for diesel. And in sorry.
We can check with the numbers and go back.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I think the other issue was how often like they break down and stuff as well. I remember that, and I'm not sure if it was between those buses, but I know some buses are not even considered because they're just needing maintenance all the time.
Most buses driving in most transit systems are diesel. And most companies don't make profit, take a cheap option. This suggests that diesel's 50% more expensive than the heavy. It's not 50% volume. It is just based on less cost. Drivers just have to.
It would have been interesting to have CNG involved. Because more and more of the transit systems are moving towards CNG buses. So this is good, finance and things, but it's pretty straightforward, right? I mean, you have two alternatives of financing, buy, purchase, or lease it, and then you broke it down into the different alternative routes and different fuel sources and such. It would be good to explain in detail about these numbers because it's kind of confusing a little bit. For one thing, though, don't put it all the way down to the cent. Yeah, $3.5 million. So go down to the nearest 100,000, and then put percentage down, and that'll make it easy for people to look at numbers too. The difference between one number versus the other, what the percentage difference is, and then I think that would explain more. Did you consider P3, just privately financing the whole thing? That is a good.
Yeah, I mean,
That was those prices. Hey, I'll do it.
I think there's some discussions on having sponsorships, which would make it a private-public partnership. I don't know if you guys looked at policy at all, because you talked about raising the fee for the parks. That's not something that can be done overnight. There's policy in terms of getting private funding. This was brought to you by Coca-Cola. There's regulation behind that. I don't know what the park system, what their regulation. I mean, that could be beyond the scope of what you were doing, but it's not always easy to just go there and do that.
Yeah, it's a national park. There's other national parks. It's run by the federal government.
And once
They
you
have their
deal with the
policy.
federal government, it becomes a whole other ugly mess.
But that's details.
Yeah. We're going to the pending, so.
I have a question. I read a missing thing about how the infrastructure alternatives and the routing alternatives are connected. Because I thought the infrastructure alternatives went with the routing alternatives. I guess they don't. Or
No, so the routing alternatives they have three routing. The routing group has three alternatives, and the infrastructure group has three alternatives.
okay, so they can be mixed and matched. And
Yeah, so they can be mixed and matched anyway. We actually had a lot more numbers to show, or numbers, not to show, but we decided to just choose the infrastructure two alternative because infrastructure recommended that, and those are the numbers that we're seeing now.
And then, if I remember correctly, the infrastructure 2 alternative was the one with the least number of parking spaces that needed to be constructed. So, from that group, it's the cheapest alternative, correct? So that's going to change your results if you were to do a more conservative analysis. It would be. My other question was, in the beginning when you talked about funding federal, you talked more about federal highway funding. Did you guys consider, is there any kind of stipulation where you can use national park funding that's already stipulated for each and every park, that you can put into that or tap into that to transit infrastructure?
We didn't look into that, but we did.
That was mainly their portion of the research. Same with me. That was mainly, so I don't know what they looked at specifically, but when I was researching just a little bit, I did run across something that the national funds that are distributed among national parks, the amount allocated to Joshua Tree, if I'm remembering correctly, then it is what you're talking about. If they were already spread thin, distributing that money in Joshua Tree amongst what they already have, and they're, I think, 42% under budget just for staffing fees with that budget. So using that for this would just be spreading everything thinner. So I think that's maybe why we didn't exactly look at taking that money, because it's already spread so thin.
So I have two questions. One question is, what is your recommendation regarding the bus? Would that be free, or will it be a fee? Or how much you charge them?
So we were thinking if we raise, or actually looking at the survey, that survey team completed. Most of the people said that they would only be willing to pay $5 to $7. And so one of the other options that we looked at was increasing the entrance fee or the per ridership fee by $10. But then we also have to take into consideration people who won't use it if the fee is increased that much. And so the option that we recommend is maybe increasing it $5, but then again, Joshua Tree has to decide that and see if they actually really want to do that. And so we're going to
So if you raise it $5, does it pay the annual costs for the increase of the rest of the business or?
It's still a lot of money. I think raising it $5 would only pay for around $2 million. Raising it $10 would pay for maybe around $6 million.
What was the annual leasing cost?
12-year lease that costs $22,171,000.
Yeah, but annually, what was it?
So if you divide that by 12 years, it's just under $2 million.
$5 raised how much?
Around $2 million. So I guess the paper is just seeing if the people would actually want to.
For having the hotels also contribute to the cost of stuff. They wanted the routes to stop by their hotels.
Yeah, another question is that, for all these costs, definitely there's a lot of uncertainty in many aspects. I don't know whether there's a common practice in financial analysis. I feel it would be helpful to give a range, not just one number, to show the variability for each alternative, of different technology. That may be more helpful to make the final decision on your organization if it's possible.
Yeah, and I think going back to your earlier comment, having a no-build alternative,
Yeah.
and what would the cost of that be? And then going back to benefit cost ratio, because there's certain costs to the entire park if you don't build anything. And I don't know if you guys have gone to Zion, but Zion's program is fantastic. You have no choice but to rent the transit. But it's a great service, and it's allowed them to explore because they limit who drives within the park. Basically, nobody can. It's lowered the maintenance costs of the facilities, of the pavement. So there's actually, even though they're spending money to run a transit system, it's lowered the cost elsewhere. So when you look at the benefit-cost ratio, and then you have a no-build, that starts giving you a better picture of what might be a better alternative.
Yeah, I looked at Zion National Park, as you mentioned. It's actually a mandatory
Yep.
show fee.
Yep.
The thing is with their program, they actually force you to use it so that they cut off a section of the park and you can't drive there.
Correct.
And I think they make you take a shuttle from outside the park into the shuttle, and then once you're there, then each person has to pay, I think, $8 to get into the park. And if you drive a vehicle, it's $15 per vehicle, so they're making a lot more money off per person. And based on the survey that we got, I don't know if that's a right increase maybe 4 times the amount of money that they were paying.
Anybody have any other questions?